to show you the most important piece for a lowered Miata. Absolutely critical that you have this if you drive a lowered Miata. These 5X Racing steering rack spacers right here. We're going to be doing new tie rods, tie rod ends, tie rod boots. What these are going to do is raise my steering rack up by about a ½ inch and give me back some of that geometry that I took away whenever I lowered the vehicle. And I'll show you why on a stock steering rack, what the angle of the tie rod looks like, and on a lowered Miata, what the angle of the tie rods looks like. Yeah, I'm trying to. Thanks, bro. So, right now, this thing is a absolute rocket ship, but it rides like crap. So we're gonna be changing that today, and I'm gonna take you guys along with me. Let's do it. All right, we got the wheels off. So look at that nasty freaking tie rod boot right there. God, it's been a long time coming. And that's where these come in. Alright, as I suspected, that bolt is very difficult to get to. So you see, these have a bolt here and one in the back right here. There's nothing above this, so I can easily grab that. But on this side, the AC compressor and the compressor bracket is right there, and it's literally a quarter of an inch too close. I mean, if this bracket was a quarter of an inch higher, this would be a non-issue. But I knew that this was a potential problem, and I forgot to stop at my boy's house last night and borrow his 14mm swivel socket. So what it looks like I'm gonna have to do right now is unbolt the AC compressor, and since it's like freshly rebuilt, freshly filled with Freon, I'm gonna just try and do something to hold the AC compressor up so that it's just out of the way, and then I can unbolt the bracket, and then I can get to where I need to get to. Typical. A job that should be fairly easy turns into an entire ordeal. So I've got this officially loosened. As you can see, it is wiggling. Now, I'm thinking that might be enough room right there. So we'll see. Let's check it out. This is the type of stuff that happens to me when I work on cars. The switch broke. Literally just from fucking doing what it's meant to do. Friction, ladies and gentlemen. there we go. So we got the rack spacers in, as you can see, fully torqued down and good to go. Next, we're gonna move on to the tie rods, the outer and inner tie rod and the tie rod boot. As you can see, geez, this is the previous owner, like, turned this thing into an RTV nightmare. Oh, I just wanted to share one thing with you guys. So when I tightened the bolt down to where it was snug and tight, I wanted to double check on that one, on the problem one. So a little trick, you can shine your phone light through that little hole right there and it will illuminate the nut in the back. You can just barely see it, and it's got the screw protruding the same amount as this one. Initially, when I thought it was tight and I checked it, there was no screw protruding. And I checked on this side, both of the screws were protruding, they were torqued down. This one was torqued down, and that one needed a little bit more. So we got the steering rack spacers installed now. Everything's torqued down. I got the AC compressor reinstalled. Everything there is torqued down and good to go. So next we're gonna move on to the tie rods. Now this part is pretty easy. The hardest part is gonna be breaking the actual ball joint loose from the knuckle. You just hit it with a hammer enough times and it'll come out. What I'll do is I will take out this cotter pin right here. We'll blast this castle nut off with a gun and then hammer the side right here until this just pops out, which that's what it'll do. You hit this hard enough, then it'll just pop right out. And see, just that easy. Couple hits right there on the knuckle. Do not hit the threads on the ball joint. Do not hit the threads on the ball joint. Hit the knuckle. The knuckle can take it. You smush these threads and you gotta reuse this for whatever reason. So that's how you do it. Now let's get this piece of shit off here. So now all I'm doing is you get a big adjustable wrench, just threads right into the steering rack. So right here you can see that these look very similar. The threads do look the same, but I will obviously verify that before we get going any further. But yeah, there's the new one, and this is the old nasty crusty one. I'm going to go ahead and measure from the base right here to where the nut is, and that looks like 26 1/3 centimeters. So we'll back this up. Yep, that looks like it. 26 1/3 centimeters. That should be pretty close. There we go. Now let me go grab the new boots and we'll grease all this up and get the new boots on. I'm gonna grease this up a little bit right here because it's gonna be going back and forth, and it needs some lubrication. Next I've got the new boot, which let's just do a quick comparison here. I mean, look at this. This is the previous owner. I don't know what he was thinking, but that's more RTV than I've ever seen in my entire life. What? So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna slide this guy right on over. So what I went ahead and did to get the new boot over the actual steering rack, because I was having some trouble getting it on there, I turned the wheel all the way that way, so that this would all compress a lot better. And then once I got it close, I just kind of wiggled it onto there. And to give it the very last little bit, I grabbed one of these guys with the pliers and just kind of like, you know, helped it a little bit. You don't want to rip it, so that's what you got to be careful of. I got the boot fully installed. Oh, it looks so much better. It just looks normal. Now I'm working on the outer tie rod for this side, and then we'll be done and we'll move to the other side. So what I've done here is I'm jacking up the tie rod so that it pushes the ball joint up through here so I can tighten this nut down. And once it gets snug, then you can really blast it and it'll tighten down. But what you don't want is for that bolt in there to spin. So that's why I'm pushing up on this. All right, so we got everything as far as the suspension situated. I have the new inner and outer tie rods, brand new boots. They look great. And as you can see, the steering rack spacers, they're pretty nice looking. Everything looks as it should. To me, it looks fantastic because my shit looked horrible, but this just looks like how it's supposed to.